Welcome back, everybody, to the Dark Reading News Desk. I'm Becky Bracken, editor with Dark Reading, and I am here to talk to James Kettle. James is a returning champion here to the news desk from last year, but this year he is sharing his research with what I believe is one of the finest titles of any of these talks, Smashing the State Machine, the True Potential of Web Race Conditions. It's a lot there. Welcome, James.
Thanks.
Thrilled to have you. So this is not something I'm terribly familiar with, so I wanted to get an idea of what the attack is and what it looks like. Can you run us through that?
Sure, totally. So for many years, web race conditions have been a known issue, but people have always focused on what I call limit overrun exploits, things like applying a single-use discount code multiple times. And those attacks are really cool, but we've overlooked a whole other class of issues which has a massive range of impact all the way up to some quite scary stuff.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. You say quite scary stuff. What's our worst case scenario?
Well, the worst case scenario that you could have is one of these email code misrouting vulnerabilities in a major SSO provider like Google or Microsoft or Facebook. And what that would mean is that everyone who has a button that says sign in with Google would be completely hackable. I went looking for that specific scenario and I didn't get quite there myself on the biggest targets like that, but I wouldn't like to rule it out either.
How ubiquitous is this? I mean, if this is a Google problem, it's an everybody problem?
Well, so race conditions are everywhere. Anyone who's looked for any type of them will know that. And the scope of this bug class goes way beyond the issues that I've found. So I think over the next 6 months, we'll find the answer to that question.
So what are some of the new classes? You mentioned these new classes. Can you walk us through some of those?
Yeah, sure. So it's widely known that multi-step processes can have a massive range of different vulnerabilities. If you ask any pen tester what their favorite multi-step exploit is, you'll get 100 different answers. But these vulnerabilities were only ever thought to happen in multi-step processes. And what I've shown is that actually with race conditions, anything can be multi-step. So there's loads of different possibilities for things to go wrong in ways that you won't find if you're not looking for them and that have been overlooked by everybody so far. Okay,
and you've developed a tool, correct, to help with this. Can you
Yes.
explain to us what that does?
Yes, I've developed a technique called the single packet attack, which fixes one of the biggest problems that people have when they look for race conditions, which is that things like network latency, network jitter mean that people look for the vulnerabilities in the right places, but still fail to find them.
Why?
So race conditions are all about the timing of your request, and if your internet connection isn't absolutely perfect, it messes with the timing. And
So
you
just
can't
that
tell
thing.
that this is happening, but things will just fail.
Wow. Okay. So how would this tool, how does this work in the real world? How would a cybersecurity professional apply this?
So I've released an implementation of this technique in an open source tool called Turbo Intruder, which is a Burp Suite extension. So users can use that to test their websites for these vulnerabilities. And also the algorithm is really quite simple. So I expect other vendors and other people to be making their own versions so that this tool is really accessible.
Really? So your open source tool, you're hoping maybe that other people can take it and build it for their specific environments?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, our version will work on will work on all websites that I've tested it on, definitely. But obviously, the more vendors that have it, the more products that have it, the better.
For everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, tell us a little bit more. Are there any other details about this that you can share that you were surprised to find? You say it's a pretty well-known issue, but what other surprises did you come up with in your research?
And I think one of the things that was the most surprising to me as a researcher was the depth that this topic goes to and how complex things get. Normally, I try and understand something and then exploit it once, using that understanding. And with race conditions, with this topic, every time I try to do that, it failed. What happens is you exploit it first, like maybe by accident, maybe without understanding what's going on. And then you go backwards from that and try and figure out what actually happened. That is really weird from a researcher point of view, to be going backwards like that, but it seems to be the most effective way.
Reverse engineering your own exploit, I guess, at some point. Okay, and so how widespread is the tool now? How many people are using it, and what kind of growth do you see?
So we've just released this tool into Burp Suite. So it was released like 2 hours ago.
Oh, wow.
So we don't know how many people are using it yet, but hopefully lots. We put a lot of effort into making it really easy to use. It's out there for free. You don't have to pay anything, Hopefully we'll see loads of people using it. We've also released some online labs so people can practice exploiting it without getting prosecuted by anyone and so on. So hopefully adoption will be really good.
That is exciting. It's a big debut. Well, just while I have you here at Black Hat, is there anything else you've seen that is interesting to you as you've been walking around and seeing what everybody's talking about?
There's a talk that's on right now about ANSI escape sequences that sounds really interesting.
I'm sorry.
I was a bit sad that I double booked with it. And there's another talk coming up shortly on exploiting cookie-based authentication that sounds very promising, and I kind of don't know what's going to be in the talk, and for me that's always the most exciting
That sounds
thing.
very exciting.
Yeah.
So what are you working on next? Now that you've got this tool and you've released it to the world, what's up next for you?
So I'm going to do one more piece of work on this research, which is the single packet attack lets you do 20 things simultaneously, and I think we can maybe get that up to like 200, which would be fun.
What would be the application for that?
It will let you find smaller race conditions and maybe just cause more damage and chaos. We'll see.
Okay, with the time that we had left, I would like to know, we were talking a little bit before we started about the title. Tell us about how you picked that title.
Sure. So the title was obviously inspired by Smashing the Stack, which is a classic white paper. And yeah, security people don't usually visualize websites using state machines. So it's a kind of a weird concept, but it's really useful for finding and understanding web race conditions. So I thought I'd bring that in there.
It was poetic.
Thanks.
So let's tell everybody now where they can get your tool. Tell them once again where they can get this race conditions tool.
Sure. So if you go to portswigger.net/research, you'll find the white paper and links to everything else. The tool is in Burp Suite, and I really hope that our main competitor, Zap, will also put this feature in there soon.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time and for coming back this year.
Cool. Thanks.
We'll see you again next year.